Male depression for far too long has been ignored by the medical community, and it is time to change it. The underdiagnosis of this condition leads to a number, in fact, hundreds of thousands of individuals who are underdiagnosed and undertreated. So, the October issue of World Psychiatry bravely takes on the topic of male depression, and I'm looking forward to telling you a little bit more about the highlights from this very important article. First of all, it's a very short article and it compares DSM 5 to ICD 11, because ICD 11 actually has just made a major change that makes the identification of male depression quite a bit easier. So let's dive into it. So the first thing to remember is, while it is true that depression is twice as common in women as in men, the problem is actual estimates show that the rates may be closer to 1-to-1, that this 2-to-1 ratio may be an artifact of diagnostic criteria favoring the presentation of the female presentation of depression. Wow, what a mind blower that is. So what actually did happen in ICD-11? Well, what happened is, over the course of time, both irritability and the absence of emotional experience, so emptiness, often thought of as anhedonia, was only allowed in DSM-5 and still only is allowed in DSM-5 till someone turns 18. After that, you really have to have these symptoms, and irritability, which is a very prominent feature of male depression, aggression, irritability, explosiveness, etc., is actually not permitted in DSM-5 as one of the core symptoms. This may be the reason why we tend to think that male depression is actually much less common than female depression, and that may in fact not be true. So this is really worth reading, isn't it? So the point to the existence of a depressive syndrome with marked externalizing features, and I'll give you some examples: irritability, aggression, risk-taking, alcohol, substance use, is particularly a problem amongst males. But this is not counted towards major depression in DSM-5. The problem is the presence of these symptoms in fact increases the risk for suicide. So perhaps our vision has been somewhat short-sighted. So allowing for both irritability and absence of emotional experience, emptiness, to replace depressed mood in the symptom requirement for a depressive episode, a number of males who actually meet criteria have not. And therefore you can understand why we clinicians have diagnosed them with other conditions and not depression, and thereby missing out on a really important opportunity to identify and to treat them adequately. And this call is a major paper. It's a major finding. It really pushes us clinicians to think about the use of irritability even in males who are 18 and older, to consider that as a core symptom in male-specific diagnosis of major depression. And by the way, this is not just an academic conversation. There are about 700,000 documented suicides globally every year. The majority, in fact, are men. And therefore, even these relatively modest improvements that we are recommending by including irritability, explosiveness as part of the depression paradigm, it could really potentially save thousands of lives if we start thinking of such individuals as suffering from major depression and offer them targeted non-pharmacologic and, if need be, pharmacologic interventions. So the benefits of such a change that this paper is really asking DSM-5 to consider, primarily to include irritability as a symptom inclusion, even in those who are over the age of 18, could make a very large difference. And the call to duty really is for DSM's next version to consider this change, because the data presented in this paper is very provocative and interesting. So thank you very much for listening in. My name is Rakesh Jain, and in this post I will give you a link to the actual paper in case you wish to read it for yourself. Again, thank you and best wishes.